Detective Miles Rucker stood on the threshold. "Good evening, Mr. Malone," he said with the same distaste in his voice that Jeff remembered from an investigation 10 years ago. "May I come in?" "What are you doing here, detective?" Jeff asked, not moving from his seat. "Routine inspection. We periodically visit people connected to unsolved cases." Jeff knew that was a lie. In 10 years, Rucker had never once come in for a routine check, but he stepped aside, letting the detective inside. "Please," he said. "Only I'm not alone." Rucker walked in and looked around. "Oh, yeah, you have company." Jeff turned around to the living room. The couch was empty. The movie kept running, but Tessa was nowhere to be seen. "She was here just now," Jeff said, feeling the panic rising again. Jeff headed for the stairs. "Tessa!" he called, forgetting his caution. Rucker tensed. "Tessa? Did you say Tessa?" Jeff froze, realizing his mistake. Yes. That's the name of an acquaintance of mine." "An interesting coincidence," Rucker said, squinting. Considering the circumstances, Jeff felt a cold sweat run down his back. "What can I do for you, detective? I've had a long day, and I'd like to rest." Rucker nodded, but was in no hurry to leave. "Have you noticed anything unusual lately, Mr. Malone? Strange calls, letters, visitors?" Jeff forced himself to look surprised. "No, nothing like that. Why do you ask?" "Just wondering. Sometimes new circumstances appear in old cases." Rucker paused. "You do remember that the case of your wife's disappearance is still open, don't you?" "Of course I remember," Jeff replied, trying to keep his composure. "But what could have changed after 10 years? Rucker shrugged. "Stuff happens. People start talking. New witnesses come forward. New evidence comes to light." He glared at Jeff. "The bodies are being found." Jeff felt his heart skip a beat. "What do you mean? You found, Tessa's body?" "No." Rucker shook his head. "Not yet, but we're not stopping looking. And you know what, Mr. Malone? I believe that sooner or later the truth will come out." With those words, he headed for the exit. "I'll see you around, Mr. Malone. Give my regards to your, friend Tessa." As the door closed behind the detective, Jeff leaned against the wall, feeling his legs refuse to hold him up. He closed his eyes, trying to calm his breathing. Was he gone? Jeff flinched and opened his eyes. Tessa was standing on the stairs, looking down at him. "Where have you been?" he asked. "Upstairs," she answered. "I heard the bell ring and decided it was better not to show myself." She didn't want to attract attention. "Why?" Tessa slowly came down and approached him. "Because I sense something's wrong, Jeff. You're acting strange. You say I'm dead. And now the police." She looked him straight in the eye. "What's going on?" Jeff looked away. "Nothing. It's just a routine check, like he said." "Are you sure?" There was concern in her voice. "Because it seemed to me that I was the one he was looking for." Jeff didn't know what to say. He didn't understand what was going on. If it really was Tessa, how could she have survived? And if not, who was this woman? And why would she pretend to be his late wife? "I'm tired," he finally said. "Let's go to bed." Tessa nodded, but there was still worry in her eyes. During the night, Jeff could not sleep. He lay beside Tessa, listening to her steady breathing, and tried to figure out what was real and what was a figment of his imagination. He was sure he had killed his wife, but he was also sure that she was lying next to him now, alive and warm. Careful not to wake her, he got out of bed and went down to the study. He turned on his computer and opened a hidden folder he hadn't touched in years. It held pictures of Tessa before she disappeared. He compared them to the woman sleeping upstairs. Same facial features, same eyes, even mole on her neck in the same place. A perfect copy or the original. What if he really didn't kill her? What if it was a nightmare? An obsessive fantasy born of guilt over the fights and the abuse? What if Tessa had just left him for a while and now she was back? No, he definitely remembered burying the body. It wasn't a fantasy. Jeff sighed and closed the folder, then picked up his phone and opened the gallery. The photos of Tessa from the last few days were still there, crisp and clear. But he remembered exactly what he'd seen that morning. Only blurs. He decided to check. He took a new photo of his computer screen with the old photo of Tessa open and emailed it to himself, then deleted it from his phone. I'll check in the morning. He thought, if the photo stayed in the email in its original form, then there was nothing wrong with the phone or his memory. In the morning, when Jeff woke up, Tessa was already making breakfast. She smiled at him as he entered the kitchen. "You look better," she said. Sleep must have helped. Jeff nodded without saying a word. He sat down at the table and picked up his phone. He opened his email. The email with the photo attached was there. He clicked on the attachment, and the photo opened. But instead of a computer screen with an old picture of Tessa, he saw a blurry blur. Jeff felt the blood rush from his face. He remembered exactly taking a picture of the computer screen. How could it have changed? Is something wrong? Tessa asked, setting a plate of breakfast in front of him. "No," he replied, put his phone away. "Everything's fine." She sat down across from him, looking him carefully in the eyes. "Jeff, I think we need to talk about yesterday, about that policeman and what you told him about me." Jeff swallowed. "What was that?" "You called me your girlfriend, not your wife." "Why?" Jeff didn't know what to answer. He couldn't tell her the truth, that to the world she had disappeared 10 years ago and was presumed dead. I didn't want to get you into trouble," he said at last. "What trouble, Jeff?" There was tension in her voice. "What's going on? Why are the police interested in me?" Jeff pushed his plate away, his appetite gone. "It's hard to explain." "Try it," she said without averting her gaze. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Jeff breathed a sigh of relief. Saved, at least for the time being. "I'll get it," he said. Standing up, on the doorstep stood a courier with a package. "Delivery for Jeff Malone," the young man said, holding out a small box and a clipboard for his signature. Jeff signed and took the package. He didn't remember ordering anything, but right now, he was grateful for any distraction from his conversation with Tessa. When he returned to the kitchen, she was gone again. "Tessa," he called out, looking around. "Where are you?" Silence. Jeff walked through the house, looking in every room, but she was nowhere to be found. It was as if she had vanished into thin air the moment the witness appeared. Jeff sat down on the couch, holding the unopened package in his hands. Something was definitely wrong here. Real people don't disappear without a trace. Real people don't appear out of nowhere 10 years after they die. He decided he needed to get some hard evidence. He took out his phone and recorded a video message, looking directly into the camera. "Today is March 29th, 2025. 3 days ago, a woman appeared on my doorstep claiming to be my wife, Tessa. This is impossible because my wife died 10 years ago. I don't know who this woman is or what she wants, but she looks exactly like Tessa and knows things that only she could know. I'm recording this video to prove to myself that I'm not crazy. If anything happens to me, it's because of her." He saved the video, sent it to his email, and copied it to his computer. He would monitor it to see if the video changed the same way the pictures had changed. On the 7th day of Tessa's presence in the house, Jeff realized he was teetering on the brink of insanity. Every time he checked his video message, it became increasingly blurry and distorted. It was as if someone or something was systematically erasing evidence of his sanity. In the morning, he awoke to the smell of fresh coffee. Tessa was standing at the bedroom window, holding 2 cups. "Good morning," she said, smiling the same smile he'd remembered for 10 years. "I thought you might need some coffee." Jeff sat up on the bed, trying to gather his thoughts. He'd barely slept at night, pondering his predicament. What if this is all part of an elaborate plan? What if someone is deliberately driving me crazy? "Thank you," he said, accepting the cup. "Can't sleep?" Tessa sat down next to him. "I've been having nightmares," she said quietly. Jeff took a sip of coffee, not knowing what to say. "About what?" he finally asked. Tessa turned back to window. "About graves," she said simply. "About people who think they can bury their problems deep underground. But the dead don't always stay dead, Jeff. Sometimes they come back." Her words sent a chill down Jeff's spine. It was a hint, direct and unmistakable. What do you mean? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Nothing much, she smiled. Just thinking out loud. She got up and went to the door. I'll make breakfast. Come down when you're ready. When she left, Jeff sat looking at the closed door. Something in her words made him truly afraid. Like she knew, as if she saw through his lies, through his crime. At breakfast, Tessa was unusually silent. She moved through the kitchen with the same grace she always did. But in her silence, Jeff sensed an accusation. I'm going to be late at work today, he said, breaking the silence. It's an important meeting. Sure, she nodded. I think I'll go to the cemetery. See some old friends. Jeff froze with his fork in his hand. The cemetery? Yeah, it's been a while. I'm going to put some flowers. The grave Jeff was thinking of, an empty plot of land in an abandoned vacant lot outside of town, wasn't marked on the map. No one knew about it except for him. Okay, he said, feeling his mouth go dry. I'll meet you tonight. All day at work, Jeff couldn't concentrate. Tessa's words about the cemetery wouldn't leave his mind. What if she knows? What if this is all part of some plan to expose his crime? At 5 o'clock that evening, he canceled his remaining appointments and got in his car. He needed to be sure. He needed to see with his own eyes that Tessa's grave had not been disturbed, that her body was still there, deep underground. The place where he buried his wife was an hour's drive from the city, an abandoned vacant lot that had been prepared for construction, but the project had never been started. 10 years ago, there had been nothing but bare earth. Now, there were trees, shrubs, and tall grass. Jeff parked at the curb and walked through the thicket, trying to remember the exact spot. It wasn't easy. The landscape had changed a lot, but he oriented himself to an old oak tree that stood nearby. The grave had to be 50 paces east of the tree. He counted off the steps, looking around. His heart was pounding in his chest. What if someone had dug up the grave? What if a body had been found? 48, 49, 50. Jeff stopped and looked around. The ground here looked pristine. Tall grass, small bushes, no signs of digging. He exhaled a sigh of relief. It was all right. The grave hadn't been disturbed. Tessa's body was still here. Suddenly it hit him. If Tessa's body is here, who is the woman in his house? Who is the one who looks exactly like his wife, knows all her habits, her past, the visions, the hallucinations? None of it made sense. He could feel the touch of a hallucination. He could hear her footsteps on the stairs. He could feel the warmth of her body next to him in bed. This woman was real, but she couldn't be Tessa. Tessa had been lying here, under a layer of earth and grass, for 10 years. Jeff returned home late at night, exhausted and confused. The house greeted him with silence and darkness. "Tessa?" he called out, turning on the light. No one answered. He checked the kitchen, the living room, went upstairs. No sign of the woman who had called herself his wife. Perhaps she had left. Perhaps it was all over. The thought brought both relief and a strange longing at the same time. He poured himself a whiskey and sat in the chair in front of the fireplace, a familiar ritual that always calmed him. But not today. Today, he felt something looming, something inescapable and terrifying. "Been to the grave?" Tessa said, standing in the living room doorway, looking at him with a cold smile. "What are you talking about?" he asked, feeling the blood drain from his face. "The grave, Jeff," she said, coming closer. "The one you dug for me 10 years ago in the vacant lot behind the old oak tree." Jeff's heart skipped a beat. "I don't know what you mean," he said, standing up. "Come on, Jeff." Her voice was calm, but there was fire in her eyes. "No more lies. I know what you did. I know how you strangled me. I know how you wrapped me in a rug. I know how you took the body out and buried it." She came close. Jeff stepped back, bumping into the chair. "Who are you?" he whispered. "I am your conscience, Jeff," she smiled. "Your past that has come back to foot the bill." Jeff shook his head, trying to gather his thoughts. "That's not possible. I was there today. The grave is untouched. The body is still there." "Oh, Jeff." Her smile grew wider. "Do you really think I'm the one lying on the ground? That I rose from the dead to come after you? If not, who are you?" he asked, feeling fear give way to anger. "Who the hell are you?" She took a step back and suddenly did something strange. She ran her hand over her face, as if removing a mask. Of course, nothing had changed. She still looked exactly like Tessa. "Don't you recognize her?" she asked. "Think hard, Jeff. Who would know everything about Tessa? Who could look exactly like her with the help of a good surgeon? Who could hate you enough to spend 10 years seeking revenge?" And then it hit him. "Kate!" he whispered, feeling the ground vanish beneath his feet. "Kate Wilson." She clapped her hands together slowly. "Bingo, Jeff. Your brains are finally working." Jeff sank into the chair, unable to stand. Kate Wilson, Tessa's best friend, the woman who disappeared from town shortly after his wife disappeared. "But why?" he asked. "Why all this? Why?" Her voice shook. "You killed the only person I ever really cared about. The only one who ever sacrificed herself for me." She stepped closer, and now Jeff saw in her eyes not Tessa, but someone else, someone full of rage and pain. "And then you showed up, and everything was fine," said Kate. "At first, she loved you, trusted you, and then you started hitting her." Jeff flinched. "No one knew about it. No one but him and Anna. She called me crying. I begged her to leave you, but she kept putting it off. And then she just disappeared. And you told the police you didn't know where she'd gone. That maybe she left on her own." Kate clenched her fists. "But I knew you'd done something to her. Detective Rucker knew it too, but there was no proof. And you got away with it." She walked over to the fireplace and picked up a framed photograph from a shelf. An old picture of Jeff and Tessa. "I swore I'd make you confess. Make you pay for what you did. And here I am." Jeff stared at her, not believing his eyes. How could she have changed so much? How could she become an exact replica of Tessa? 10 plastic surgeries, Kate said, as if reading his mind. 10 years of preparation. I studied every detail of her appearance. Every habit, every memory she shared with me. I became her, Jeff. For you. She put the photograph back in its place. And it worked. You believed. You began to question your sanity, your memories, the whole thing. Jeff shook his head. "You're crazy. I've recorded every conversation we've had. Every word you've said since the moment I arrived." She took a step back. "But I want a full confession, Jeff." "You're not going to get anywhere," he said. "No record is enough. It's still your word against mine." Jeff froze. For a split second, the room was silent, except for the sound of his own heartbeat thudding in his ears. The truth was unraveling, slipping through his fingers faster than he could contain it. Panic surged through him. His mind raced, not with guilt, but with fear. Fear of exposure. Fear of prison. Fear of everything crumbling. "No, I can't let this happen. Not again," he thought, eyes narrowing. The memory of what he did to his wife flickered in his mind like a flash of lightning in a dark sky. Cold, final, unforgivable. And now, it was happening again, another woman standing in front of him, holding the truth like a weapon. And just like before, he decided she had to go. His expression twisted into something dark and dangerous. He began stepping toward her, slowly, deliberately, his posture calm, but his eyes murderous. She immediately sensed it. Terror spread across her face. She took a step back, then another. Her voice trembled. "What do you think you're doing, Jeff?" she asked, her voice cracking with disbelief. But he didn't answer. He just kept moving forward. That's when she said it, her voice suddenly steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. "I have a witness." And as if on cue, the living room door opened. Detective Rucker stood on the doorstep. "Good evening, Mr. Malone," he said, with the same distaste in his voice. "It seems we finally have some evidence." Jeff felt the ground go from under his feet. He shifted his gaze from the detective to the woman he thought was his dead wife. "You worked together," he said. "All this time." "Not all of it." Rucker shook his head. "Kate came to me a month ago. Told me her plan. I couldn't pass up a chance like that." Jeff sank into his chair, realizing he was cornered. "What now?" he asked. "Now," Kate said, "you tell the truth, the whole truth about what happened to Tessa. Maybe it was time to come clean. Time to end this nightmare." I killed her, Jeff said quietly. Louder, Kate demanded. I want to hear every word clearly. I killed Tessa, Jeff repeated louder. We had a fight. She said she was leaving me. She was filing for divorce. Yeah, I couldn't let that happen. I grabbed her by the throat, choked her until she stopped moving. He lowered his head, feeling the tears running down his cheeks. I wrapped her body in a rug, took her out of town, buried her in a vacant lot, 50 paces east of the old oak tree. Kate stood still, staring at him. Tears were streaming down her face, too, but she didn't wipe them away. Did you hear that? She asked, turning to Rucker. Every word. The detective nodded, pulling out his handcuffs. Jeff Malone, you're under arrest for the murder of Tessa Malone. You have the right to remain silent. Jeff barely listened. He stared at the woman with his wife's face, the woman who had spent 10 years trying to avenge her friend, who had changed her face, her identity, her life for this moment. Was it worth it? He asked, as Rucker snapped the handcuffs on his wrists. These 10 years? The surgeries? All that pain. Tessa deserved justice, Kate said, and now she has it.